Lone trucker finds a terrified mother, fleeing a red car. Then he slams the brakes and jumps out. It was supposed to be just another night on the highway. Rain poured down like a curtain, hiding the world beyond the windshield. But for Jake, a lone trucker haunted by the ghosts of his past, that night became a crossroads. Through the blur of storm and darkness, he spotted something that made his heart stop. A woman barefoot and soaked clutching a child, running for her life. Behind them, a red car crawled forward like a predator. Jake knew danger when he saw it, and this time he refused to look away. What he did next wasn't planned, it wasn't logical, but it was human, and it changed the fate of 3 lives forever. If this story grabs you in the first few seconds, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because stories like this one deserve to be heard. What happens when a man who's been running from his own pain decides to stand between a predator and his prey? Stay with us, because this isn't just a story of fear. It's one of courage, redemption, and a single moment that proved heroes still walk among us, quietly, in the rain. Rain pelted the windshield like bullets, turning the highway into a blur of grey and light. Jake Cole, hands firm on the wheel, drove in silence, just him and the rumble of his 18-wheeler against the storm. The night had dragged on like most others, endless road, occasional songs from a dusty FM station, and the faint ache in his chest that no medicine could touch. Then, out of nowhere, a flicker on the roadside caught his eye. He narrowed his gaze. A figure. No, 2. A woman and a child stumbling in the rain, their shapes illuminated for a second by his headlights. Jake's foot hovered above the brake. Something about the way the woman looked over her shoulder, desperate, terrified, sent a jolt through him. The child clung to her leg, crying, trying to keep pace. Behind them, creeping like a hunter in the dark, a red sedan rolled slowly forward, its headlights dimmed. Jake's instinct screamed at him to keep driving. It wasn't his business. But then the woman slipped and nearly fell. The red car inched closer. His hand gripped the wheel tighter. He hadn't planned to be a hero tonight. Hell, he didn't even believe in heroes anymore. He slammed the brakes. The truck's tires screeched as they fought the soaked asphalt, and the trailer jolted behind him. Jake grabbed his coat and jumped out into the downpour. Rain soaked him. In seconds, but he didn't care. His boots splashed through puddles as he sprinted toward the woman. She noticed him and froze, clutching the child tighter. "Please," she managed to cry out, her voice hoarse. The red sedan came to a halt a few feet behind them. Its engine idled, ominous. No one stepped out. Jake's mind raced. Who was she? Why was she out here in the middle of a storm with a child? Why wasn't the car moving anymore? "Get in the truck," he said firmly, not waiting for an answer. He grabbed the woman's free hand and guided her toward the vehicle. The child sobbing followed as lightning split the sky above them. Jake didn't look back. He didn't want to see if someone was stepping out of that car. Back inside the cab, he turned the engine back on and pulled onto the road. His heart pounded louder than the rain. The woman shivered silently beside him, hugging her daughter. "Thank you," she whispered. Jake said nothing, eyes fixed on the rearview mirror. The red sedan hadn't moved yet. He could barely make it out through the rain, but it was still there, watching, waiting. Jake tightened his jaw. Something told him this was only the beginning. He handed her a towel from the passenger side storage. She accepted it with shaking hands. The little girl buried her face into her mother's chest. "You got a name?" Jake asked without looking at her. She hesitated. "Emily. This is Lily." Jake gave a single nod. He didn't need the details yet. "Where were you headed?" Emily looked down. "Away. Just away." Jake noticed her shoes were missing. Her feet were muddy, scratched. She hadn't planned on being chased tonight. Either. Jake turned the heater up. He'd picked up hitchhikers before, soldiers, backpackers, even a runaway teen once. But none had looked like this. They weren't just escaping. They were hunted. The image of the red car etched itself into his thoughts like a stain. He remembered how it didn't flash its brights or honk, just rolled forward in silence. It felt more like stalking than pursuit. Whatever this was, it wasn't normal. and Jake had just dragged it into his cab. Lightning cracked again, followed by thunder that shook the steering column. Jake turned on the wipers to full speed. His own pulse throbbed in his temple. He knew he should stop, ask questions, call someone, but the way Emily stared ahead, hollow and alert at the same time, told him that time was not a luxury they had. Her silence screamed louder than any explanation, and something in Jake's gut told him the storm outside wasn't the only one they were running from. Jake gripped the wheel tighter as the truck rumbled back onto the slick highway. His jaw locked, eyes scanning the rearview mirror. The red car remained behind them, now at a farther distance, but it still hadn't turned around. Beside him, Emily held Lily like a shield. The little girl trembled, face buried in her mother's chest. Jake didn't speak. He didn't want to scare them more than they already were, but his instinct screamed something wasn't right. And he had no idea what kind of danger he'd just invited into his cab. A mile passed in silence before Jake finally asked, "You being followed?" Emily didn't answer right away. Her lips parted, but her voice caught in her throat. "I think so," she finally said. "I don't know anymore." She turned to the window, avoiding his gaze. Jake frowned. He'd dealt with liars before, but this wasn't lying. It was fear, raw, frozen fear, the kind that paralyzed truth itself. Jake considered stopping at a gas station, but something told him that wherever they stopped, the car would find them. Suddenly, the headlights behind them brightened. The red car was speeding up. Jake's heartbeat surged. "Hold on," he muttered, shifting gears and accelerating. Emily's eyes widened. "Is he coming?" she whispered. Jake didn't answer. He reached under the dashboard and turned off his taillights. The truck roared forward into the dark, now nearly invisible from behind. The rain masked their movement, but not for long. Jake knew back roads. If he was going to help, it had to be now. But why was he helping? Why did he care? They took a sharp right onto a rural side road. The red car shot past the intersection, missing them by seconds. Jake exhaled deeply. Emily squeezed Lily even tighter. "Thank you," she whispered again. Jake didn't reply. Instead, he focused on the road ahead. The truck's headlights carved a shaky path through the fog and rain. He was trained to avoid problems, not collect them. Yet here he was, driving through the dark with a woman and a child he didn't know, running from someone he hadn't even seen clearly. Jake finally pulled onto a gravel shoulder and stopped the engine. The silence hit hard. Rain still tapped the metal roof, but the threat felt distant now. He turned toward Emily. "You want to tell me what's going on?" She hesitated. "My ex. He found us. He said he wouldn't let me leave with Lily. I didn't think he'd follow me this far." Her hands trembled in her lap. "You called the cops?" Jake asked. "I tried. They told me to file a report." She laughed bitterly. "He's charming to everyone else. Calm. Manipulative." Jake studied her face. She wasn't lying, but something still didn't add up. "Why were you on foot?" he asked. "I left the motel," she said. "He was outside, watching. I grabbed Lily and ran. I didn't plan to find anyone, I just ran." Her voice cracked. Jake rubbed his temples. "And that car, he's in it?" Emily nodded slowly. "It's his. He's not supposed to know where we are. I turned off everything, but he still found us." Jake looked at Lily. The child hadn't made a sound in minutes, but her eyes were open, listening, processing everything. Jake opened the glove compartment and handed Emily a protein bar and a bottled water. "You need to stay calm," he said. "I'm not a cop, but I don't like bullies." Emily held the bar but didn't open it. "You don't have to help," she whispered. Jake looked out into the storm. "Maybe not, but I stopped for a reason." The truck hummed quietly, a fragile bubble of safety in the middle of nowhere. Outside, the wind howled. Somewhere out there, the red car was turning around. Jake drove in silence, his mind racing faster than the wheels beneath him. The backroads offered temporary cover, but not answers. Emily hadn't told him everything. He could feel it. There were gaps in her story, pauses that didn't feel like trauma but like calculations. Still, the fear in her eyes was real. He glanced at Lily through the rearview mirror. The girl had fallen asleep, her small body curled in the seat like she hadn't done that in days. Emily, however, stayed wide-eyed, hands clenched. She hadn't blinked in minutes. "Why didn't you drive?" Jake asked suddenly. Emily looked, startled. "What?" "If you had a motel room and he was outside, why not take your car?" She hesitated. "I left it behind. He flattened my tires. I panicked." Jake nodded slowly but didn't buy it. "There was more, always more." "And your phone?" "Dead." "That's convenient." She flinched. "You think I'm lying?" "I think people lie when they're scared. Doesn't make it wrong, just makes it harder to trust." Silence returned, thick and unspoken. The rain continued, but the tension inside the cab was heavier than the storm outside. Then came the moment Jake had been dreading. Headlights, in the distance, behind them, dim, slow. "Don't panic," he said calmly, keeping his voice low. "Just stay still." Emily turned, saw the car in the mirror and gasped. "That's him." Jake kept driving, pretending not to notice, but the red glow of taillights and the unmistakable silhouette made it impossible to ignore. Jake took another sharp turn down a narrower road, his grip tightening on the wheel. The car followed, same distance, same speed, not close enough to act, but close enough to watch. "He's doing it again," Emily whispered. "This is how it started. Just following. Always watching." Jake glanced at her. "How long's he been like this?" "Since Lily was born," she said. "At first it was subtle. Comments. Jealousy. Then came the control. The isolation. One day he hit me. Then begged. Then did it again. I stayed too. Long, I know that now." Her voice broke. Jake felt something shift inside him, a crack in his own wall. Pain recognizes pain. He didn't need the whole story to believe her now. He'd seen this before. In his sister. In himself. Jake suddenly pulled over onto a dirt path, killing the lights. The truck stopped in total darkness. The rain muffled everything. He motioned for silence. The red car slowly passed them by, its driver never looking sideways. Emily held her breath. Lily stirred in her sleep. When the car vanished over the hill, Jake waited a full minute before speaking. "He's not chasing. He's hunting." Emily nodded. "He always finds us. No matter where we go." Jake started. The truck again, the silence heavier now. "We can't run all night." As they drove on, Jake debated his next move. Call the cops? They'd ask questions. They might not believe her. They'd separate Lily. "He has papers," she said, reading his mind. "Custody, shared. But I have full physical. He just doesn't care." Jake gritted his teeth. "You want to press charges?" "I did, twice. They told me I didn't have enough bruises, that my word wasn't enough." Jake didn't respond. He was too busy imagining what it would take to make someone like that stop. Something permanent. A truck stop sign flickered ahead. Jake made a decision. "We'll rest for 10 minutes. Then I'll take you somewhere safer. But if you're hiding..." "Anything else, now's the time to say it." Emily turned to him slowly. "There's one more thing. He has a gun." Jake didn't flinch, but his stomach dropped. "You sure?" She nodded. "He threatened to use it. On me. On anyone who helps me." Jake parked behind the station. "Then we don't stop long," he said, "and we don't let him catch us again." The storm had eased, but Jake's grip on the wheel hadn't. The truck rolled back onto the highway, headlights cutting through the mist. Behind them, no red car in sight. But that didn't bring comfort. It only meant he was waiting. Jake glanced at Emily, her arms wrapped around Lily like armor. The girl had fallen back asleep. "We've got one shot," Jake muttered. "Once we hit the interstate, he'll lose the advantage." Emily said nothing, but she knew. They weren't just running from a man. They were running from a history no one else had believed. They reached the ramp to the interstate, but as Jake merged into the right lane, his eyes caught a reflection in the side mirror. Headlights, low to the ground, familiar pattern. The red car. "Damn it," Jake whispered. Emily followed his gaze and paled. "Hey, found us." Jake floored the gas. The engine roared. The truck surged forward, but the car behind matched his speed with surgical precision. It didn't try to overtake. It just lingered, close enough to be seen, far enough to avoid confrontation. It was a message. I see you. Jake took the next exit, a detour through a narrow wooded road. Trees loomed on either side like watchers in the dark. I know this area, he said. He won't. Emily's hand gripped the dashboard, knuckles white. What are you doing? Trying to even the odds. The truck weaved through the curved path, tires skidding slightly. Jake knew the shortcut from years of lonely hauls, but he hadn't. Driven it in a storm, and never with a target on his back. The red car followed, its lights slicing through branches like blades. A deer darted across the road. Jake swerved hard, the truck tilting before righting itself. Emily screamed. Lily stirred in panic. Jake regained control, barely. He exhaled, eyes flicking to the rear view. The red car didn't swerve. It slowed, then continued. He's patient, Jake said. He wants me to make a mistake. Rain started again, soft at first, then heavy. Visibility dropped. The wipers struggled. This ends soon, Jake muttered. One way or another. Emily looked at him, her voice trembling. Why are you doing this? He hesitated. Because someone once needed me, and I wasn't there. They approached a narrow bridge, old metal, and barely wide enough for the truck. Jake braked hard. Get out, he said. Emily blinked. What? We're ditching the truck. There's a trail, it cuts through to the other highway. We can't walk in this, we can't stay in this. Jake grabbed a flashlight and opened the door. Rain slammed into him again, unforgiving. He unlatched the side hatch and pulled out an old tarp. Wrap Lily, keep her quiet. Emily obeyed. Jake scanned the road, still no car, but he felt it. He knew he was being watched. As they started down the trail, flashlights bouncing off mud and roots, Jake could hear distant tires crunching gravel. The car was near, closer than ever. He stopped, turned off his light and crouched low. Emily and Lily stayed behind him, huddled together. Then came the sound, engine revving softly, followed by a door opening. Jake's muscles tensed. Was he getting out? The silence that followed was worse than noise. Then a voice cut through the trees. Emily, you're making this worse for her. Come back and let's fix this. Jake's hand clenched around a rock. Emily's breath caught. He's lying, she whispered. He always lies. Jake stepped forward, staying low. We go around, he whispered. Quiet and slow. But the trail ahead forked, left, toward the highway, right into thicker woods. A decision had to be made. Fast. Jake turned to Emily. Left is faster, right is safer. Emily's eyes darted to Lily, then to the darkness. You choose, she whispered. Jake took her hand. Then we vanish. The forest swallowed them whole. Jake led the way, each step a gamble in the dark. The path narrowed as brambles scraped their legs, and rain poured like a waterfall through the trees. He could barely see 2 feet ahead. Behind him, Emily clutched. Lily wrapped in the tarp like a lifeline. Jake's breath came fast, not from fear, but from calculation. He had to think ahead. Routes, exits, visibility. But nothing could account for what he felt. The chilling certainty that Greg wasn't behind anymore. He was ahead. Jake slowed. The trail dipped downward, and through the trees, a faint light flickered. Gas station signage. Almost there, he whispered. Emily nodded, soaked and shaking. Then a sound shattered the moment, a twig snapping to their left. Jake raised a hand to silence them. Another snap, closer this time. He turned his flashlight in that direction, and for half a second he saw him, Greg, standing still, watching. His shirt soaked, a revolver glinting at his hip. His voice echoed calmly. Give me my daughter, Emily. No one needs to get hurt. Emily froze. Lily whimpered. Jake stepped forward. She's not yours to claim anymore. Greg's face twitched, surprised to see someone stand between them. Who are you? He asked. Someone who should have shown up a long time ago. Greg smirked. So you're the hero, truck driver, right? You don't even know her. I don't need to, Jake replied. I see enough to know what you are. Greg lifted the gun slightly, not pointing, just reminding. Walk away now, you're not part of this. Wrong again, Jake said. Now I am. Greg stepped forward slowly, gun still low but ready. Last warning, he said. You're not taking her from me. Jake scanned the ground. Mud, rocks, trees, no real cover. He motioned subtly to Emily. Go, he mouthed. She shook her head, terrified. Greg saw it. Oh no, no one's leaving. He pointed the gun now directly at Jake. That's when Jake moved fast. He grabbed a thick branch from the ground and hurled it at Greg's shoulder. It hit with a thud, not enough to disarm, but enough to stall. Jake charged forward. They collided. In the mud. The gun fired into the air. Emily screamed. Jake grappled with Greg, punching, rolling, both sliding in the wet earth. The gun landed feet away. Greg clawed for it, but Jake yanked him back. Fists flew. Jake's mind flashed with images of his sister, bruised, crying, moments he couldn't erase. This was the man he should have stopped years ago in another life. He wouldn't fail again. With one final punch, Greg fell limp, unconscious. Jake stood over him, chest heaving. Blood trickled from his lip, but his eyes burned with purpose. Emily ran to Jake, eyes wide, holding Lily tight. Is he... Out. Cold, Jake said. But not for long. He picked up the gun, checked the chamber, still one round. We need to go. Now. Emily hesitated. We can't keep running. Not anymore. Jake nodded. Then let's finish this. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. It was old, scratched, but still working. He called the only person he trusted, Jenna, a local journalist he'd once helped with a story about veteran homelessness. I need you to go live, he said. Right now. Minutes later, headlights approached. Not from Greg, but from a car driven by Jenna, phone in hand, already streaming. Jake stood beside Emily, the gun holstered in his waistband. Tell. Them, Jenna said, and Emily did. She told everything. Her bruises, the ignored police reports, the motel escape, the red car, the live stream exploded. Comments flew in. People were outraged, watching, believing. Then sirens approached in the distance. They'll believe you now, Jake whispered. They have to. The flashing lights painted the trees red and blue. Officers poured onto the scene, weapons lowered once they saw Greg unconscious and disarmed. Emily stood by Jake's side, her hand never leaving Lily's shoulder. The girl clung to her mother, watching everything with wide, silent eyes. One officer helped Jake sit down on a nearby stump, noticing the cuts on his face and the swelling in his jaw. You need a hospital, the officer said. Later, Jake muttered, eyes locked on the patrol car where Greg was being cuffed. Just make sure he doesn't walk away from this. Jenna kept the camera rolling, even as officers asked her to step back. The people need to see how this ends, she insisted. And they did. The live stream hit 100,000 viewers in less than an hour. Hashtags trended. Donations began pouring into shelters for abused women. Jake didn't want the attention. He wanted closure. As medics cleaned the blood from his face, he watched Emily give her statement, voice firm, no longer shaking. This time people listened. This time her story mattered, because it wasn't just hers anymore, it was public. At the edge of the clearing, Lily tugged at Jake's sleeve. He looked down, surprised. Thank you, she whispered, for helping Mommy. Jake smiled, his throat tightening. Any time, kid. Emily joined them, her eyes glistening. We were never supposed to be here tonight. I thought no one would stop, that no one cared. Jake didn't know what to say. So much of his life had been spent not caring, keeping his distance, staying safe in silence. But tonight, something changed. He wasn't a ghost on the highway anymore. He was part of someone's rescue. Back at Ye. The station. While Emily filed charges and Lily napped on a bench, Jake sat outside watching the sunrise. Jenna came out, holding 2 coffees. You always did have a talent for showing up where it counts, she said. He took the cup, chuckled quietly. Or maybe I was just overdue. She nodded. You know they're going to call you a hero, right? Jake shook his head. I'm just a guy with a truck who couldn't look away this time. But the label would stick. It always did when someone stood up when others wouldn't. When Emily emerged, she looked lighter. Not free yet, but starting. "They're sending us to a safe house," she said. "Out of state, new names, a real shot." Jake nodded. "Good." She hesitated. "I don't know how to repay you." He looked at her, eyes soft. "Don't. Just stay safe, for her." Emily smiled, and in that moment something passed between them. Respect, recognition, the shared weight of survival. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded paper. Lily made this. It was a crayon drawing, a truck, a woman, a child, and a man with a cape. As she walked away, hand in hand with her daughter, Lily turned one last time and waved. "Bye, hero," Jake waved back, holding the drawing. For the first time in years, his chest felt lighter. He climbed into his cab, started the engine, and stared at the road ahead. It looked the same. Long. Empty. But something inside him had changed. The road didn't feel so lonely now. Somewhere out there, two lives were continuing because he didn't stay silent. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more powerful tales like this. Share this video to raise awareness and remind others that one small act of courage can save a life. Drop a comment below and let us know. Have you ever witnessed a moment that changed everything? Become a member and support this channel so we can keep telling stories that matter. More life-changing stories are on the way. Don't miss our next emotional revelation.